Rhea, you are on tonight. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. What was the main motive or motivation for the Vietnam War? Okay, so the main motivation for the Vietnam War is, of course, fighting communism. All right, it is an extension of the containment policy. Remember that the policy of containment goes all the way back to Harry Truman, and containment policy, which I often will compare to free soil, but during I'll hit my stride eventually. Okay, but as far as that goes, I compare it to free soil before the Civil War, because remember that free soilers, it wasn't about getting rid of slavery. Now, free soilers like Abraham Lincoln weren't fans of slavery, but it's just like, okay, it is where it is, and we're not going to try to do anything about that, but we're not going to let it expand. Now, containment policy is a very similar policy having to do with communism, that the United States will resist any attempt to spread communism in the world. And so as far as that goes, first of all, you had a few phases of the Vietnam War, which they call it, the classic Clemson's actually called the Vietnam Wars, because first of all, it's kind of part of this global phenomenon of decolonization that the French were fighting to hold on to their Indochina colony. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share a few things with you so that we can go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so let me go ahead and share the screen, and so we can look at all of this together. Mr. Garcia, you're popular tonight. Maybe you should be coming up here and doing this, and I'll watch, because Lord knows I could use a little break once in a while. But thank you all of Mr. Garcia's students for coming out here and supporting this this adventure. All right, so as far as that goes, what we've got here is French Indochina. Now, French Indochina is, you see a whole lot of little different things there, but Laos, Cambodia, what was then known as Siam, but is Thailand. And now, of course, this looks like was not part of French Indochina. Okay, this remained, what is today Thailand, looks like remained independent, but you had Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam that are all part of French Indochina. All right, so that's what you're seeing there in blue. And so the thing is that part of the containment policy, and now in the 1950s during the Eisenhower administration, we were actually trying to help the French hold on to Indochina, that the French, the poor French, okay, they got beaten so badly in World War II. And after World War II, they're fighting to hold on to their colonies and whatever national dignity they have left. I mean, because when you look through French history, like the French really, go to Paris, for example, and so many military monuments, the Arc de Triomphe, and all of these other things that are out there. And Paris is really a military city. It's a city that speaks of the military glory of the French, and then World War II. And that, and so the French are trying to hold on. Now, the United States is interested in helping the French because there is suspicion that Ho Chi Minh, who is the nationalist leader of the Viet Minh, of this, this independence, this force fighting for their independence, that there is suspicion that he could be a communist. And so with that, what you want to note here, why is it that we cared so much about this relatively insignificant country? Okay, so as far as this goes, we've got to put this into the bigger story of containment. Now, in 1949, of course, China fell to the communists, and then North Korea after that. And what it's looking like in the 1950s is that all of this is just going to go down like a bunch of dominoes. And you see why people are, a bit, they're just, they're a bit worried. Okay, now, this is what was predicted, that Vietnam is next. And after Vietnam falls to communism, then Laos, Cambodia, and then we see it going all the way to communism in India, which one thing we want to mention is that there's never been a totalitarian dictatorship in an English-speaking country. But the thing is, looking back, a lot of people see the domino theory as possibly paranoid. But then again, we don't know what would have happened if the United States had not resisted communism in Vietnam. So it's not just about Vietnam and containment policy, but the conventional wisdom in the State Department and the military at the time was this domino theory that if we don't stop communism in Vietnam, then it is going to spread all the way through Asia, and we're going to be looking at an entire continent that is communist if we're not careful. And so that's really, when we think about why the United States is in Vietnam, this is really the best answer to that question. Now, whether you buy into the domino theory or not, or you see it as credible, that's really up to you, okay? But this is the information that the US government was working on at the time. And so with that, yeah, that would be the main motivation for the Vietnam War. Thank you so much, Haley, for asking that question.